Hey, welcome back to the Acquirable Podcast. Excited to have our first guest of season 2. Hey, if you've been listening to this podcast and you love it, then click the subscribe button below. We'd love to have you be part of our community. And today we're super excited to have a good friend of ours, John Hass here, former CEO, founder of ConnectPV.
Good morning.
To tell a story. Thanks for joining us, John.
Thank you. Interesting dynamic. I'm not sure what to expect, but I'll do my best.
Yeah. Hey, we're keeping you on your toes.
Right.
No script provided. You were telling us just before we turned the cameras on, like you said, lots of sleepless nights. And that was just like a offhand comment you made. People think about exits, right? And there's these headlines and there's all these, there's like a whole world of influencers out there that talk about having been through exits and things like that. And there's all this glory that's attached to it. And people, they picture this like a promised land kind of thing at the end of building a company. But what a lot of people aren't talking about on the web is all the suck and the grind along the way, right? Like you said, sleepless nights. Tell us about that.
You know, you think about it as you commented earlier, it's like, this brand development. Your brain is just about, how do I get my brand out there? How do we get this, this entity? The sleepless nights, the scariest moment was when I hired my first employees, because up to that point, it was me. And if I failed, I failed. But now somebody else's livelihood, it depends on, the decisions that we're making and the plans we're doing. So that was, that and cash flow stress. There's just some days you're just like, okay, I need to make sure we can guarantee to make payroll, make sure I take care of my suppliers, take care of my people. And there was a year where we did this crazy huge growth, and then the next year the entire industry just went off a cliff, and it was like crickets. And there were months there where you're just like, okay, where's the next order coming from? How do we get that? How do we keep this moving? So much of the renewable energy business that I was in, ConnectPV, is dependent on the administration and the who's in office, and what policies are there, and and for better or worse, it is an industry that does follow the money. Where there are some tax incentives and things like that can really, support projects. We didn't really work in the residential solar world. It was always the utility scale space. And so those things are digital. You either win this $3 million project or you don't. Yeah. And so, resource planning and cash flow planning and things like that around that digitality of these huge projects, it was just crazy. I mean, like, our first year, we got it took 10 months to get our first order, and it was $1 million order. Yeah, and it was the one that just gave us that runway and that path to really skyrocket in the second year, fall off a cliff in the third year. If you remember correctly, back those days when you were in Vistage, I don't know how many times I talked to our Vistage team. I'm like, man, if I would have been fired by now if I wasn't the CEO. Yeah, I mean those years, and it's so much fun though. It's like.
Yeah, roller coaster.
Very much so. And that industry is very much, the solar coaster, they call it, right?
Well, talk about, John, why don't you talk about the business when you started it? I mean, you talked about you're being the first employee, and then that scary part about, hiring your first.
Right.
Like, walk us through the evolution of your business to the point that you got to an exit.
Okay.
Like, what's the size, the profile?
Right. So I guess, it was interesting. I got fired from my job before. I was running a company up in the Bay Area called Solar Boss.
Everybody needs to get fired once.
I got let go.
Everybody needs to get fired once.
And I thought we had done a great job, but the owner of the company wanted his company back, and you know, mad respect to him. So he let me go. Came back down to San Diego. Just talked to some friends and some people that basically said, "Why don't you just go do this?" So talk about scary. We liquidated my 401k. Borrowed some money from my dad. Borrowed some money from my wife's grandma.
You bet the farm.
I didn't bet the farm.
Realize that.
Oh yeah.
And so, I was officially the only employee during that year of 2015.
Yeah.
I did have a guy, Rogan Guild, phenomenal guy. He's been a great, resource and a friend for me through life. He did help come in and get some of the documentation done on the original product design. So we spent the first year basically getting the products designed, getting them through the regulatory testing, getting our mark, and then be able to, move. And then we got our first big order September, October of that year. So it took about a year.
What was that feeling like the day that you got the first order?
It was crazy. It was like, holy cow, this could work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, it was about $1 million order, and they put $500,000 deposit down on it. So that just gave us, tremendous, just put cash in the bank to go buy the parts, to build the products.
Good to get a little runway.
A little bit of a runway there. Now, to be fair, when I launched ConnectPV, I had some longtime friends at a company called L&T Precision Sheet Metal that do metal fabrication. And so that's a big part of that product set for us at ConnectPV. So I did extend an equity position to them in exchange for they became our factory. And they had a 30-year history in a credit history, so they could go to the suppliers and buy the parts.
So good.
And so I was the only employee, but yet I had this factory that worked for me as a contract manufacturing partner. But they were also had an equity position in ConnectPV, so we were both on the same side of the table.
Yeah, they had a vested interest in
totally
you guys.
open book. We understood the cost, we knew exactly what it was, and so they would build it, ship it. I would bill it. I would bill it, get paid, pay them, and so we did that. I mean, that was the evolution of how we got ConnectPV really off the ground.
Just for the listeners, what was like the products you were providing? You said utility scale solar already, but like what were you doing in that industry?
So literally in the way we came up with the name ConnectPV that was literally what we did. We connect PV, photovoltaic systems. So we don't make the panels and we don't make the inverters that convert the electricity for the grid. We just made everything in between that connected it. Just miles and miles of wire, systems, combiner boxes, junction boxes, big electromechanical assemblies. And it's a niche product that if a utility scale project gets built for, 80 cents a watt, I'll call it $1 a watt.
Yeah.
We were this little 1 to 2 pennies a watt portion of that.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a part of every project.
Yeah.
So the solar panels themselves are roughly half the cost. The big trackers that they sit on are roughly a third of the cost, and the inverters, et cetera. And then we were this little tiny tail of the dog over here. But
a very critical tail. Yeah, a
but
very
a needed
critical
part.
tail.
Every single watt flows through those products.
Yeah.
So that was 2015. 2016 was a really great boom year. We tripled in volume that year. It was fantastic. That was when we brought the first employees on.
Yep.
People that I had worked with. Like you talked about, you work with people you like. And so I brought people on that I had worked with at a company called Teal Electronics. And I was there for almost 20 years. And so Rhea and Bob were the first people that joined. We literally were at my kitchen table. We had computers set up around the kitchen table. And we did that for a couple, 3 months. And that's where all the dogs loved that because everybody's here. My wife was getting kind of tired of it.
Those are fun days.
Yeah.
But, then about 3 months later, we got our first location, just a small location in Scripps Ranch area. And so we were there for 3 years before we moved to our big factory out in Poway.
Yeah.
And it just, this evolution was, and ultimately we took over the manufacturing of our product from our partner. They still supplied all the material. They supplied all the sheet metal and the back panels and all that other stuff we needed. But then we had our factory out there in Poway that you guys have been to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was fun. It was an interesting dynamic. It was, I think it went $1 million in the first year, 3 in the second, back to $1 million in the third year. The next year, I think, was 9.
Wow.
The whole industry just did this.
Yeah.
And that was year 4. That was that point where your brand is actually, you're seeing it.
Starts mattering.
It starts mattering. People recognize
you've been
it,
around.
et cetera. We've done some projects. We've got some legitimacy. We're financially stable. It was fantastic having L&T as a manufacturing partner because they were ISO 9000 certified. So you could have somebody come in and do a factory tour and a verification, and they could see the systems and processes in place to really produce a reliable product. Great relationships with suppliers was a huge part of it. That was something that I don't know if people think about how much your suppliers matter to your success.
Oh yeah.
As much as your customers.
Oh yeah.
It's like it's a continuum, and you've got to treat everybody with respect and fairness and et cetera. And that I think that really worked out really well because we had they were very gracious on terms and things like that. In pricing, I could always get very, very good pricing on our content.
I remember that when we were working together, that the suppliers were like third parties, but we were super close with them. They were gracious.
Very much so.
Yeah. So you went from, remind me, what was revenue at the time that you sold the company? Just for bookends for people to go. You went from zero and at your kitchen table to,
I think 20. So that would be 2021. We were running about 28 million in revenue.
okay, so 0 to 28 million is the story here.
In
six years, which is a good clip.
Yeah.
So we always talk here at Stone about 4 pillars of value that we have known and seen to be true. We always ask people to give us kind of their opinion and thoughts and to stack rank them. Joe and I especially like to ask people to stack rank them. That's efficiencies, financials, culture, and scale. So if you would just with us walk through kind of each of them here, let's talk through them and then we'll have you stack rank them later.
Okay.
Efficiencies, like what did you learn about efficiencies building and running this company?
And how important was it in the context of the sale?
Okay. So in efficiencies, and you're thinking of production capacity, systems, process. I mean, that was the fun part was, so efficiencies specifically, I don't know how I would label that. I mean, to me, the culture, I know you're asking me not to force rank yet.
No, that's
No,
all right.
go
Well,
for
let's
it.
jump
We
into
love
culture.
it. Yeah,
Jump
we
into
love
culture.
it.
Culture was just such a huge part of it.
Tell us about it.
We were trying to build a company where we had a solid team that were fundamentally accountable to themselves and to the team and to the performance. And I always tried to structure compensation in a way that's rewarded. I mean, people want if you really want them to be part of your team, you really need to pay them okay.
Yeah.
And take care of them. And
align
bonuses
incentives
when you can. And buy lunches and do that. I mean, that's such a cheap way to build a phenomenal team.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say cheap. It's it really at the end of the day, your return on those investments are massive. I mean, we went from 0 to 28 million in 6 years.
Yeah.
That's so thrilled with that. But efficiencies. I mean, so we talked. It's funny. I had the benefit of having worked at Solar Boss. They brought me on because I was coming from a much larger company, Teal Electronics, and I was trying to work with them to take them from being a startup to a grown-up. And we took them from 10 to 20 million or so in a couple of years. Again, part of this is just the benefit of the industry. It was booming. Renewable energy is still very, very active. So when we launched ConnectPV, when we thought about systems and processes and the efficiencies that we needed, we put an MRP system in. We weren't running on Excel. We tried. We wouldn't spend the money for a real system to work with a financial backside that we could do our reporting and easily be audited and stuff like that. Engineering, design processes, all of those things were just such a huge part of like launching this little entity. But we put the money in to get the SolidWorks licenses and get the design software and the things that we needed to do it right. Yeah. Versus chicken scratching it on the back of a pad, because you can pull that off for a little while.
Did you do that? Did you do that before that first customer, or was that a thing you did after you started to have cash flow coming in?
A little bit of both. I mean, you start off cheap. You get the QuickBooks Online Edition, manufacturing version. That's $150 a month to have the license, to have an actual MRP system that works with a financial piece that you could do your reporting. You have to make the investment in some of the design software right up front. So you've got to do that up front. And I just think it's everything that we had done I'd done at Solar Boss to help them grow, et cetera. And they've gone and they were acquired and did their whole thing too. But so I always thought systems and processes have got to be there. But you've got to figure out how to do it cheap. In the beginning, it's like, okay, we have one SolidWorks license. Okay, let's go get another one. That's those are $10,000 a piece, kind of a thing like that.
But it sounds like, John, you kind of started out with ConnectPV in terms of thinking about how do I scale this business meaningfully. So like you had an eye towards that, and so you were trying to kind of set up systems so that it would enable you to scale at the pace that you wanted, instead of thinking about, I just got to get through this quarter or this week.
And the validity of the customer coming to you and saying, can you handle an order for 2,500 of these things?
Yeah.
You've got to have the system in place. And there again, having L&T Precision as my manufacturing partner and equity partner in the entity, they had the systems and processes. And so we were really kind of overlay our design on their basic manufacturing capability and set up a really cool manufacturing line that, instead of using like a conveyor system manufacturing line, we used carts. But you could just flow carts through the different stations, and if something happened and a unit had a problem, you could pull that cart out, but the others kind of keep going. We just always thought about the scalability.
Yep.
And because again, a client's going to walk in and say, "Can you handle an order of this many?" And yeah, we can do that. We can do an order of 1. We can do an order of 1,000. We don't, we've got our systems in place to support that.
Cool.
So the product itself is, it's highly configurable within a range of a product family.
Okay.
You can have this many inputs or this many inputs, and you can do this, or you can add this, but it's all within the context of a product family that we had designed. So that's what I was doing that first year when it was just me and Rogan, was really laying out these product families so that we had this configurable system that we could just go to market quickly with.
So it sounds like, you had this mind for scale, so the ability to kind of increase capacity in a short period of time, which is, I think, why you went from 0 to $27 million in a number of years.
6 years, yeah.
Which is
no big deal.
Yeah. And so then you also have like this mind for kind of like, how do I do this efficiently? Meaning like so scale is kind of like capacity. Efficiency is like how well I'm doing that, or how quickly I'm doing that, or how cost effectively I'm doing that. That's all that kind of falls into the efficiency bucket. When you went through, like, what do you, from your perspective, what were some of the things that the buyer during the transaction was getting excited about in those? Was it like the ability to scale? They're like, hey, I can look at like what John has created, and I can take this, and now we can go from 26 million to 500 million.
Right.
Because that's a scale thing. Or it's like, oh, he's got something really, really interesting on the efficiency side, the quality in which he does it, and the line that's coming in, and this. What were some of the things from your memory that you think got the buyer excited?
I really, at the end of the day, we had 3 product lines that they didn't have, so they were very complementary. We had 2 product lines that kind of overlapped.
Yep.
And ultimately, part of the discussion with the buyer was to say, okay, how do we sunset these because let's just use yours. But meantime, here's these 3 other product sets, really battery energy storage integration cabinets that they didn't have and they weren't doing. Ironically, they didn't. And they still don't have an MRP system. It's really funny. And at the time, they were $600 million in sales.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, when they acquired ConnectPV, we were, like I said, $28 million.
Yeah.
I think they were in the $300 million range.
Got it.
And they were a competitor in the space, but in that industry, you're all frenemies.
Yeah.
Right.
You kind of compete with each other all day long. You kick each other in the knees and other parts, and then at 5 o'clock you punch out and go get a beer together and talk about the stupid customers and how frustrating customers are. And so we just known the team from the buyer, and so for them it was a footprint on the West Coast. They were based out of Nashville area.
Yep.
So having a footprint on the West Coast to serve the West Coast clients a little bit more simply, as well as they get the complementary product lines. Again, it really was kind of funny because we had a full-blown MRP system that we were using, and they don't. And so there were things that we were doing better as a small company than they were doing. But again, they were 10 times our size. So they're not poking anybody in the eye.
Yeah.
Right? So I think
So in this particular case, like they were looking at like how you were running from a scale and efficiency standpoint, and they're like, they didn't necessarily value those 2 components, even though you were doing it a little bit better.
Yeah, I don't think that was the big, and to be fair,
yeah,
and I can speak, I think plainly, but they had just gone public in the Q4 before 2015 or 2021 when they got us, and so to a certain extent, they were kind of flush with money, and we liked each other, we knew each other.
Had a newfound stock they could use to go acquire companies.
Right?
Yeah,
exactly. And again, so the team that I was able to work with, Jason and Ben, and those guys, we had known each other and been frenemies for so long, and of course Dean Solon, who is the crazy amazing entrepreneur that he is, so it was just kind of a good fit, but ironically, they didn't really even have to announce the acquisition, and they didn't for a long time.
Everybody knew
because it's like, hey, how is ConnectPV going to become this new thing? But at the end of the day, and I don't want to say I was offended by it because I got a nice price for the company, but it was basically immaterial.
Yeah.
And so they didn't need to make a huge splash, and it wasn't a massive thing. So, but that's fine. It was clearly material to me.
Yeah.
One of the pillars we didn't touch on in that talk, there was just financials. And so one of my favorite sayings, which I actually, John, like I use this all the time now in due diligence, was if there was some question about something that was done more than like 2 years prior to when you had your controller, when you were the controller, you would say, that was the last controller, and we fired him.
Exactly.
and I will never forget that. And John, I say that now too. When something comes up that happens before we got our first controller at Stone, I said that was the old controller, and we did fire him.
Yep,
and it's a really good get out of jail free card.
Get me at it. Those were the sleepless nights. It was me every night doing the financials and stuff like that, in the books and making sure the invoicing was done correctly. And man, that was one of the best hires. John Reese came on as our controller and CFO. Man, the guy's fantastic. And he continues to, I think, work part-time for companies, here locally. But even up at Solar Boss, had a partner, CFO was Rich. Having a solid financial person to work with, when you know that that's not your skill set.
Yeah.
I'm a product guy. I will happily go design and geek out on product 10 from 7 and have somebody that is truly know and trust in running the numbers and keeping us clean was huge. And I think that was a big part of it, is having a really good controller, CFO. Our books were clean.
Yeah.
Our margins weren't crazy. We weren't, making money hand over fist. It's a manufacturing industry. Yep. But our books were super clean. And so when the buyer came in for the auditing and stuff like that, we were able to pull, 6 years of good, clean history out of our system.
How important was that?
I think it was huge, because I feel like if I had been running a little piece of shit company, it would not have been, I don't think it would have passed the buyer's board's approval.
I think you're right. Yeah.
But because, again, we were super clean. I mean, nothing hidden, no skeletons, nothing like that. As we were growing, that was a big part of it too. I paid myself okay, made sure we were put food on the table, could pay the mortgage, stuff like that. Nothing fancy, but we basically took the vast majority of the money and put it right back in the company. Yeah, hiring great people, getting better systems, getting the facility out in Poway that we were able to get out there with 25,000 square foot facility to go from a little 1,800 square foot where 6 of us sat there. Yeah, then to go have our full big factory out in Poway. That was huge. That was awesome.
Fun. Exciting. It's like a milestone for the business.
It totally is
huge. And it was always the vision to move manufacturing from L&T, because we were starting to outgrow their ability to scale. So now, but we moved in a building that was down the street from them. Yeah. So we had that continuous, ability to work with each other, talk to each other, think about the systems, and we implemented the exact same manufacturing platform that they had created. We duplicated that in our bigger factory, and that allowed us to really scale.
That's cool.
And I remember I was just jogging my memory back to when we did the deal together. You're right. It was very product first, relationship first, the way it started. And then as deals do, it then moved to the financial team, and we had to convince them, and then it moved to the legal team, and we had to convince them. Yep. And then ultimately they're a public company, and the board had to be okay with it. And so it moved to them. And I think you're right. I think that like the interest would have been there because of the product and the market fit and the relationships, but to get the board approval and like first and foremost before that, the CFO approval, the clean books and records and the financial reporting that you had was critical to that. It was
very much
it was digital, to use your term. Yeah, it was like it was either going to work or not, right? And it worked. So
yeah, I remember going through due diligence, with you guys, and there was almost no question that they could ask that we couldn't get the answer quickly.
Yeah.
And
that's a gift.
That's it. It's like we had to do some digging occasionally. Yeah, because they would, obviously, and the legal gets involved. And
that creates all new sleepless nights.
That's a gift.
So the one that perked you up the most out of that is culture. Mm-hmm. It's funny, we've had a few guests on where when we ask that question, great CEOs sometimes will just say like it's culture, like just eliminate the others because it's culture. Yeah. And you kind of had that same reaction, which I just find so interesting. You dig into that, like what was it about culture? What does that mean? What did that mean at the company?
So again, I not to say I cheated, but a lot of the people I brought on, I had worked with at Teal or other companies, and people that I really knew and trusted to just to be there and be present mentally and to work. So that accountability was kind of built in. And I remember you really got to go back to the fact that you can't try and be this crazy great culture and pay people poorly. You've got to pay them well so they want to come, they want to work for you, et cetera. And I think you can buy all the lunches you want in the world, et cetera, but if they don't feel like they're really being valued and then you're going to struggle. But, the production team that we had, these are guys that I knew from Teal. Teal was going through its own kind of winding down. They got acquired by somebody in the Midwest, and they were moving a lot of the work there. So I was able to kind of get these guys, and the engineering team, I think, was entirely from our Teal days. So it was like the old home party. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And it's just a light culture. It's like, I'm not going to harsh on somebody and yell at somebody. Lord knows I made enough mistakes. I told you, I said I should have been fired 3 times in the first couple of years. I think that was that one job, and I made a mistake on a cost or design, and it cost us like $75,000. I mean, like, that's a person's salary.
Yeah.
And that was my bust. That was my mistake. So I find it really hard to be harsh on other people when we're human. We're going to figure it out. We'll get through it. But yeah, the culture was just a culture of positivity. I feel like the people that we had came to work every day going, okay, how do I do this well today? Not every employee was fantastic. We did have to let a couple go, but our turnover was remarkably low. And in a production environment where you have 65, production guys and warehouse and everything like that. Yeah,
that's rare. It's a big deal.
It's like building, and it was all people that knew each other. And like, again, it goes back to that accountability. It's not just a stranger, but it's somebody I know and I live with and work with, kind of thing like that. That was a huge part of it. And, we had big lunches every Friday and just like have taco truck come in and things like that. And it just had, a few $100s of cost for just take it easy for an afternoon and let's get out of here. So,
How long were you two in a Vistage group together?
It's got to be 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I would say it was 3 or 4 years. And that was the other thing for me, was even being introduced to the CEO roundtable concept while I was running Solar Boss up in the Bay Area was fantastic.
Yeah.
Then I came down here and I didn't do it for the first year because it was really just me.
Yep.
And then I think I joined in the second year of ConnectPV is when I joined. And man, what a huge resource and what a friend group.
Yeah.
The accountability to each other, the laughter, the
war stories.
The war stories.
Yeah.
The things you hear, the lessons you hear, that you hear what somebody else is going through, and you're like, wow, that's all right. Here's how they handled that. How does that fit for our company? The scenario is similar.
Yep.
The solution may not be the same, but okay, what was the thought process to go through that? So having that mentorship and that accountability of the Vistage and then ultimately Renaissance was fantastic. I miss it.
Yeah.
You
and me both.
Yeah. It's funny, like, just as from an outside perspective, like that Vistage group has been such a big deal to me, right? As a person who wasn't part of it. And I've gotten to know a lot of you so well, and all of you from that group talk about accountability in a way I don't hear elsewhere. And and you're the person that I've gotten to be in the trenches with the most because you're my teammate, you're my partner, right? And you've brought the culture of accountability to Stone, and you've taught me. Like, where did that come from? Was that something you all talked about a lot? Think back to those days. Is that why would it be that all of you would talk about that so much?
I felt that group was just really human.
Yeah.
There was no egos.
Yeah.
And I think that was a huge part of it too. We had 1 or 2 people come in and they weren't really a good fit, and
they got bounced pretty quickly.
But the group that we worked with, that CEO around, they're just.
I think it was a couple things. I think that there was like a human connection. I think when you build trust with people over a period of time, like, you allow yourself to have more kind of direct or candid conversations with them, especially because if you care about somebody and you're kind of in the trenches and you're actually talking about work, and it's not like this thing that's like it's going to damage our relationship or anything. Like, you can say like, hey, John, I think you're missing this.
Yep.
Right. And you're doing it in a way that that is in an environment where it's more likely going to get heard than not heard because you're not reacting to something that's coming up.
Yeah,
it's just a topic that you're processing.
I got chewed out plenty of times in Vistage, but I never felt offended.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right? That
Yeah.
came across us. It was look, here's where you're kind of missing this, John. And I think Xavier did a fantastic job as a chair. I mean, I think he did a really nice job too.
He didn't let it there were no you couldn't give, I would call, kind of soft answers.
Okay.
No.
It wasn't
Do
allowed.
you know what I mean? Like
you get called out.
you can't. You couldn't just phone it in.
Was it
was
the group that called you out? Was it the chair? Like
The group.
It was the group.
Everybody.
Wow.
Yeah, it was the group. It was the group.
I mean, there's plenty of days that I was there. I was just kind of mentally not there.
Yeah.
But then give it 30 minutes and you get engaged and you get drawn in. And it's like, okay, I really want to be here mentally. And with this group of people, they're phenomenal. And they're holding me accountable to things I said I should be doing in my own company where they have no authority. But it was but that relationship, that trust relationship was huge.
How long were you in? Were you in a peer executive group before?
I did when I was up at Solar Boss.
Okay, that's the introduction.
Well, it's kind of funny. It was and I went to the owner of Solar Boss and basically said, "Hey, this is my first time being a CEO. I know there's things I don't know. I really want to go do this. Will you pay for it?" And it was like $1,000 a month or whatever, right? Kind of a thing like that. And he agreed, and that's where I met my first team with the chair up there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and that was interesting because I was living here, but I would fly up on Sunday nights, work through Thursday or maybe Friday morning, and then fly home. So I did that for better part of 2 years.
Oh wow.
My wife tells me that was my midlife crisis.
It's
like, it's like, well, shit, I didn't spend that
living
very
on. You squandered it, John.
I just could have been a sports car or something like that. No, I just did this thing where I was living in an apartment in Livermore.
That's not fun like you should have made it.
No, but got to golf a little bit, and then again, that's where I met that Vistage team and first got involved with that concept of a CEO roundtable, and they were similarly just a great group together. I would argue there was a little more ego up there.
Yeah,
because you had like people that were running big companies, and I'm like, and I don't know, like guys that showed up in suits every time.
Yeah,
and it's like, guys, you can wear a polo shirt and a pair of slacks. It's okay, you know. This one, ours was more relaxed.
Bay Area versus San Diego,
exactly.
I think business culture is definitely a little bit different.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Or
so
was
like,
at that time?
It was like low egos, but high expectations. You were not allowed to be there and be mentally checked out. You had to be present in the room.
Yep.
That's
and if somebody didn't show up, somebody would call them, not the chair. It was.
Do you remember we started talking about what if we could like put a valuation of all our little companies in the and like create a little what do you want to call it, a little market?
Yeah,
and we'll call it the SPASDAC.
Yeah,
because it was these horribly disjointed companies. It was going to be the SPASDAC.
we would have crushed it.
I would have bought into the SPASDAC.
You should have.
It was hilarious.
Yeah.
That was like a great cohort of companies.
Well, and think about how many of those companies exited.
Yeah.
So many.
That's
You know what
really
I mean?
amazing.
Yeah.
Like you exited, Chad exited, I exited. I mean, it was
Matt
it
did.
yeah.
Matt,
exactly.
so many.
What a great group, and now doing kind of really interesting different things. And
Yeah, I think it's so interesting when you look at like the life of a CEO in a company that has achieved some kind of greatness or been through an exit, which an exit is like, it's such a small percentage of companies that are started. There's always something that happened. There was like a group of people, maybe it was a team, maybe it was employees, maybe it was the people that were surrounding the CEO, maybe it's all of them if you're really lucky. Like there was something there that existed. And I think that's a big lesson for founders and people running companies is just like find that group of people,
that group, man.
whatever you have to
It's
do to
so
get a group of people
rewarding.
around you
that
are pushing you to think big, supporting you to think big, backing you, believing in you.
Yeah, and then hearing their stories as Chad was going through his exit. I mean, I learned some really amazing things about that helped me tremendously through my exit. I mean, that's like just to see what people are doing and going through.
yeah.
So tell us about the exit. What happened? Who bought you? How did it start? How'd that conversation start? There's people listening to this that are either in the middle of the beginning of what you went through, or they're going to hit that. They're going to hit this and they're going to think back and say like, oh, I've heard this before. So, it's so impactful for people to hear the story of it from you.
like I said, so I mean, to a certain extent, the good thing is the buyer, Shoals Technologies, is still the largest player in their product group in the renewable space. And phenomenal company, they're doing fantastically. We had known each other, Ben, Chase, and Dean, and all of us had known each other. Shoals is always famous for throwing these massive parties at the trade shows, like massive parties. And Dean would be the first one, or Ben would be the first one to invite me. Hey, feel free to come on. You're a competitor. Don't be a jerk. Don't talk to our customers at the party, but please come have a beer, have a good time, relax. That was part of their culture too.
Yeah.
And so it really made a phenomenal fit for that. So again, as I commented, Shoals went public in 2020, I think it was. And then in 2021, we started the conversations about acquiring ConnectPV.
Yeah.
And it actually went pretty quick. I think.
Who reached out to you?
I don't remember if it was either Jason or I know Ben had been talking to the Shoals senior team about acquiring ConnectPV for a while. He didn't call me. I believe it was Jason that reached out to me first. Jason was the CEO at the time, Jason Whitaker, another phenomenal individual. I really miss working with him. He was a blast. Brilliant guy. They had such a phenomenal team. And so they reached out in March-ish. And I think we concluded the deal by August.
Whoa!
Yeah.
But we kind of knew each other.
It was fast.
I mean, the due diligence wasn't deep. It didn't have to be crazy. And I think I want to go back to saying having those good systems and records and financial softwares and systems, and we had documented processes, so there was no question that they could ask that we couldn't answer. There were questions I thought were really stupid, and they asked them 27 different ways.
Yes.
But we still answered them.
Sometimes the same person at 27 different people ask the same question.
Exactly.
Yeah, you get some jackassery in there.
Yeah, but once the lawyers
Is that a
get
technical
involved,
term?
That's a technical mergers and acquisitions term, jackassery.
And then your team did your team did a fantastic job helping us.
Thank
put
you.
The what do you call that?
SIM.
No,
The file structure where you put all the stuff
data
in.
room.
Data
room.
data room.
Talking
Thank
about,
you.
yeah.
Losing
Knew
my
you'd
mind.
be talking about the data room.
You know what's crazy? I'm remembering. I'm just like recounting back now. There was a ransomware.
Oh my good Lord, that was the worst.
We're forgetting about the super stressful stuff. We must have been a week out from closing, or maybe it was 2.
We were 2 weeks out from closing, and our systems got hacked, and we ended up burning our server to the ground and redoing it all over again.
Recreated it from like paper documents, right?
Oh boy,
I'm sorry to
Why
bring
did you
this
bring
up,
that up?
but
Good
I
Lord.
want. Let's
is
talk
like, this has
about
been
that.
a void in
Yeah,
John's
you can
mind
tell
for years.
he's done everything he could not to think about
painful.
this.
That was
You're like resurfacing trauma.
Actually, we would have.
Don't worry, we have drinks in the
We
lobby.
would have closed in July,
Yeah,
but we got hit the last week of June, and so
Yeah.
we ended up having to wipe out everything.
it was
recreate
like
everything.
right before the 4th of July.
Holy moly.
That was hilarious. Yeah, it was one of those hacks where you get up the next morning and somebody logs into
Yeah.
the computer and they see this little kernel that's down in your network driver, and all of a sudden you can't get to your financials. You can't get everything.
Holy
Oh
moly.
man,
And we were doing backups,
yeah.
so we lost all of June. We had to recreate June, but that was a nice thing. Again, John Reese, the CFO, I mean, he did backups every 2 weeks, complete offsite. So just having that mentality, that systems and processes in place to like. So again, we had to recreate June entirely, every invoice, every purchase order, every blah, blah, blah. But we had everything from May and back. And so so then we spent a couple weeks grinding it out in July, recreating.
That's right.
And verifying and going and counting and, checking everything like that.
But you only had to then recreate kind of the past month because you had backed up.
Because we had offsite backups from May and back.
And we had like a data room with all the old data in it up until like May or whatever.
Yep.
Because we were rolling everything forward so frequently.
So from a M&A standpoint, like if somebody hadn't done that or doesn't have that going on, what would have happened to the deal if they, like, well, the last time we backed up was 18 months ago.
Oh man. Well, I mean, on one hand, like a lot of it was exported and put into a data room.
Yep.
So like that's there, and it was ledger level detail. So like it could have
Okay.
been used to
Yep.
recreate past months. But like I think more than anything, when something like that happens, I'm remembering myself now back to like think. What do we say? How do we fix this? You know, and it was and how do we deal with this from like an M&A and a buyer relation standpoint? And the bigger concern is like systems and processes. Like, how did this happen? What are they in? I think we did like a pen test or something like that.
We had to do all the pen testing.
There were some hoops we had to jump through to like make them feel comfortable from a system standpoint. But I mean, that's like a.
Awesome.
I mean, there's so much uncertainty, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think the deal was like, I think it was like about to close, and then I think it was dead, and I think it was dead for like 40 days. And then we closed. Yeah.
That was bonkers. I don't know if I want to do that.
Sorry to
again.
bring that up. I know you've like just recovered from it recently.
War stories.
War stories.
War
That's
stories.
just a whole, the timing of that stupid
It
situation was just the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like we were ready to close and I was ready to get my check.
Yeah.
Like, nope.
Yeah. Same, John.
Right?
Man.
Exactly.
What? So tell us about, I think a really like a critical thing that we try to think a lot about here is life after exit. And it's a thing that not very many people do talk about. And frankly, it's not a thing very many people know anything about, right? Like it's just such rarefied air to be a founder or a CEO who's been through an exit, or even a person who's like thrown their whole life into the identity of like, I'm building this company, and then for it to be over, right? In the course of like a day, and you know, and then probably transitioning out over the course of a time, a year or two or something like that. What was that like for you?
I would say initially it was not a big deal because they brought me over as and gave me a chief technology officer title because I was no longer the CEO of ConnectPV. So
Yeah.
and I was really able to work with them, and I worked with Shoals for about 3 years total following the exit. I kind of had like a 2-year employment agreement because they wanted me to stay.
Yep.
But I was able to then really go be a geek on product. I didn't have to worry about building anything anymore.
Which was your passion. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So I was very blessed to really kind of stay on the management team there, be a part of the senior management team with Shoals. Ultimately, they let me go last January. So maybe my point is, for the 3 years that I was there, I was busy. I was working constantly, really supporting the sales team, talking to a lot of clients about product direction. Where do we need to go? Again, great management team there. And then they were going through some cutbacks last year, and so we kind of mutually agreed to exit, and so that was last January. I've not done very well since then, just because I'm bored.
Yeah.
So I've had about a year off. It's time to get off my couch, and go do something. Or at least that's what my wife says. So
I love it.
she's like, I don't care where you go. You just need to go somewhere.
How much thinking did you do about what life after exit would be? Or was it just, hey, like, because for me, I was thinking about, okay, we're gonna do this thing, and the goal is to sell this company, and you get this exit, and that's kind of the main focus that I was kind of like running through. And then we got there, and I hadn't done a really good job about thinking about like what's my role going to be afterwards? What does that look like? What if, you know what I mean? And scenario planning different things. Like, did you put any thought in time?
I was blessed that I didn't really have to, because I literally they were they were absorbing us into their Borg, et cetera. And so,
and it worked well for you. Like you liked the team and you liked the role.
Exactly. So I wasn't, at the time I wasn't, because I was just going into a different type of my job.
Cool.
But still fully employed. And they kept the factory here in San Diego for about 3 years. And they ultimately decided, because they were in the process of building a massive new facility just there north of Nashville. And so we all decided, okay, it's time to really shut down San Diego and just take all the, they kept a handful of people. That was the only thing I was disappointed with most was, there was a full production team there in San Diego.
Yeah.
That, we did our best to find them all jobs, kind of things like that. But there's really only a handful of people that kind of transitioned once we shut down the Poway facility.
Yeah.
So that was disappointing to see, but I understand. It's like they made the investment in Nashville to in this massive, amazing facility too. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not a lot of thought in advance in terms of planning around, and it seemed, because I had the same. I had about a 3-year employment agreement
it's kinda-
afterwards,
yeah,
right?
you're kinda
And
just
so
going-
you kind of go through that, and then that ends.
then it's like then as of last January,
Because sometimes you go through an exit and you have the ability to kind of do this transition, and sometimes that transition can be really smooth, like in your case, and sometimes that transition can be rocky.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it can just be abrupt, because it could be the transaction is done
and they don't want
And
you.
you're gone. Yeah.
and hey, I'd love you to help introduce us to customers for the next 3 months, and then
Right.
So
and
what
then-
was
and
the
we're done.
Yeah, like what was, I guess for you it was delayed, right? It came a few years after, and you had this excellent kind of post-sale period where you liked working for them, but then January comes. What's going through your head for the last, this would have been 14 months ago or something like that, and what was the identity shift for you that you kind of went through?
Well, it's kind of interesting because especially the last few months, as they shut down the Poway facility, we were all working from home. So I was already kind of just working from home. And so when we, kind of agreed to part ways there in January, I was still at home. So that's where I'm saying I don't know that I thought that out very well.
Yeah.
Like, okay, now what do I want to do? Well, I knew I wanted to just take some time off. Like,
Yeah.
I just want to be mentally dead.
I did the same thing, and it
few
was
months.
amazing.
Totally.
It was amazing.
There was a lot of robes and boxer briefs and flip flops
I love it.
wandering around the house. Yeah. So then, I'm almost like, maybe what I'm saying is, I feel like now I'm really trying to think about this. Okay. Because if I can be retired if I want to be,
Yep.
but I don't want to be.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm just going to I'll go get a job at Home Depot. I
Yeah.
want
be
something fun to do.
doing
and-
something.
yeah. Et cetera. And again,
You would be the best Home Depot
I
guy
think it would just be a
ever.
blast.
I
think it would be a blast.
He would
I
start
would-
building stuff in the hallways,
Yeah.
like with the guys, like, oh, let's do this now.
I have had a few Home Depot guys that are technical like you, and it's a real blessing in that day when you're like, I don't know how to fix this.
Lord knows I'm there often enough. We just finished building the house, and so now it's like at least weekly. I grab our Great Dane,
Yeah.
our big puppy, and we go to Home Depot.
Yeah.
You go to our thing,
I
you
love
go
it.
get all the supplies we need.
So do you think for you it's just like you need something to do during the day that is like out
Yeah.
and
Just that mental stimulation, the interaction.
okay.
Find yourself getting bored.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you're cracking a beer at 11 o'clock in the morning, and you're like, well, this is not really productive, but it's good.
Yeah.
And it's
So,
like,
is there advice, Sean, that you'd give to somebody that is knowing what you know now, sitting where you're sitting now, about how to prepare for that kind of time? Would you say, hey, just take it as it comes and then figure it out when you get there? Or is there some
Little bit
there's
of
some
that. I mean,
thought and planning that you'd want, advise them to do?
well, again, so if you're being acquired and they want you to stay on, that's a very, very different thing.
Yep.
But then that moment is when you really do leave. I would say back to the concept of give yourself the grace of just relaxing for a little bit.
Yeah.
You don't need to dive into or start something new immediately. It's
Yeah.
okay. You've got some cash in hand. It's,
Like let your mind rest.
yeah, just take a little mental break. Now my mental break's done now. But
Yeah.
like I said, it's been about a year. But at the same time, we were finishing building that house, and so there's all this other stuff going on in life, and kids off to college, and blah blah blah. So it's not like there's not enough stuff to do.
Yeah.
But now it's time. So it's funny. My wife even went and got a job because she just wanted to get out of the house. So she works at anthropology,
Oh, that's
Love
cool.
it.
and she loves it, and she's killing it there.
My wife loves anthropology, but she doesn't work there.
Very different.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, she probably spends more than she makes.
Yeah.
but,
It's great.
but I'm like, but she absolutely has love it, and seeing that in her, I'm like, I can go. Like I said, that's why this Home Depot kind of. I was like,
Yeah.
all right, Lowe's, Home Depot, I don't care, Ace.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
someplace fun to go do and be engaged and enjoy that.
Yeah.
That would be fun. There's no pressure. There's no, it's not like, not to say it this way. It's like I don't need the paycheck. I just want, and I can't go golf 4 days a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do enjoy golf, but
Yeah, no, I think it's about meaningful, purposeful work. And I had somebody at the end of ours that gave me some great advice about because I wanted to take some time too, but I kind of kept having my finger in it a little bit because I couldn't help myself.
Right.
And so they said, you really have to make sure that like one chapter ends before you begin the next one. He's like, if you're going to do the next one well, like you owe it to the next thing that you're going to do and to yourself to make sure that you have
give it that full mentality.
To give it closure, give yourself some space, and then jump in. And that served me really, really well. I think it's one of the reasons that I'm sitting
Yeah, I love
here
that.
today, because I clear-minded could say,
Yeah.
this is really what I want to
what
kind
I
of
loved.
invest in and put my energy into.
Yeah. I love that. So the takeaway there is, if you're thinking about an exit, you have an exit in your horizon, plan to give yourself the grace and the space to let that chapter end before you force yourself into starting a new chapter and throwing yourself right back in the mix. Hey, thank you again so much for tuning into the Acquirable Podcast with John Hass. John, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
It means so much to have you sit here as
Entertaining.
as a friend and a partner, and just we appreciate you so much.
When you brought up that horrible malware thing.
What was that you said about drinking at 11 a.m.?
Oh, good Lord, that day. Oh,
Let's go.